Oh, Susan, I am so delighted with your book. I think, uh, look at that. I've already got it tagged. Well, because as you said, who doesn't love fried chicken? But especially, I think a lot of these recipes from East and Southeast Asia has been um, rather neglected. So it's great that you done this book. I've been looking at it and being inspired. Don't worry, I won't steal your recipes.
No, steal them. I hope you cook them.
I will cook them, and um, a lot of it is brings back especially memories. I tell you that the one I really love, which are the one shrimp paste. I love that. People don't know about shrimp paste and about how what a wonderful marinade it is, and the rich umami flavor it gives. And um, my mouth is watering just looking at it. The pictures are fantastic. And what I love about your recipes is they're not complicated. I mean, nobody wants to make things that take hours to make. You just want delicious food that is easy.
I agree. I mean, I really love fried chicken, and that's why I wrote the book. And with the shrimp paste chicken wings and a lot of other Southeast Asian ingredients, the bark is a lot worse than the bite. So they smell really bad, like durian, shrimp paste, fish sauce. But when you use it as an ingredient, it tones it down, it smooths it out, and it adds just a really deep note to the food. So I don't think I think that people should not be scared of cooking some of these, even though the ingredients might be unfamiliar to them.
Yes, I totally agree. But it's similar to Western things for us Asians. When we smell like blue cheese for the first time, we go, "Ooh, that's really
And
stinky."
a pause is the worst, right?
Right. It was, but it's once you get used to it, you say, "Wow, it's really fantastic." And what I love about your book is it will expose people to different flavors. In other words, uh, I saw this one here where you're using a fermented bean curd. And what I love about that, it opens the door to flavors that people never thought of. It doesn't cost a lot, especially fermented bean curd is quite inexpensive,
Mm.
but it can go a long way. And I just love this kind of exposure to a whole new world for everyone, different flavors.
Well, I tested the recipes on myself, of course, and my husband. And my husband's a Brit, and
Yeah.
he has lived in Hong Kong for a long time. But I wanted to make sure that the recipes would taste good to both me and him. And it was a fine line sometimes. Sometimes, like for the shrimp paste wings, I wanted a little bit more shrimp paste, but um, he preferred it as the recipe is written. So you can always add a little bit more once you've become familiar with the flavor. You can always amp up the flavors. But for now, I think the recipes will work for palettes that are quite universal.
Yes. Well, you know what I think your book is too. It's use this as the model, and as you said, you can ramp up the taste if you like a particular flavor. And part of I think cooking is that you need someone to give you a guidepost, and then from that guidepost, like you are giving people, um, you can deviate or you can make it to your own taste. And I love what also how you're using things like potato starch, these things that people are not familiar with for frying. It's actually better than flour. Um, it gives a crispier flavor.
I agree with that because in the West, where, in the United States where they make Southern style fried chicken, most of the recipes tend to be with wheat flour, but the other flours are gluten free, so they're good for that kind of diet. And then I also they do give a different crispness. And when I do use wheat flour in my coating mix, I tend to use cake flour or pastry flour because it has a lower gluten content and it makes the coating lighter. Um, and you can also substitute gluten-free flour if you need to for the wheat flour. So the recipes work for different diets.
That's what I love. It's really a wonderful guidepost to fried chicken with different flavors. And I love it that you've taken all your over 20 something years of experience about writing about food, and you just condensed it into this. Actually, I love your book because it's easy to use as well, which it's user friendly, which I think is very important, especially these days. And also, I think a lot of the recipes are make good economic sense um, for families that are sort of watching their budgets. You can actually have something delicious that doesn't cost a fortune as well. And the fact that most of it is quite simple. So bravo, Susan.
Thank you. One of the when I first started writing the book, one of my friends said, "Well, you're going to use organic free-range chicken, of course, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, that's really unfair to people who can't afford organic free-range chicken. It's much more expensive, and I'd rather have people cook than not cook."
Yes.
So I said in the introduction, in an ideal world, I would be telling you to do this, but also in an ideal world, everybody would be able to afford it. But
Right.
it's not an ideal world. And for my recipes, I mean, when I was testing, I used frozen chicken for when I'm asking for certain parts. I could buy chickens in Hong Kong, which are fantastic. They're reasonable price, about 70 Hong Kong dollars per bird, which is about less than $10 US, and
About 8 pounds or
about eight
something like that.
pounds. Um, but they're still more expensive, and it's a 1.2 kg bird, and by the time you cut off the backbone and the head and the neck, you're left with less than 1 kilo. But if you buy frozen parts, it's about the same price, but you're getting all usable
Mhm,
parts.
mhm.
So if life were fair and everybody could afford free range chickens, then I'd ask for that, but it's not like that.
Well, I think um, we do what we can. And I think the most important thing is that first, number one, that it tastes good, that it's not difficult to make. And I love how you also use different things from different flavors, because I lived part of the time in Thailand. So I love some of your Thai recipes. Some of them I've seen people cook it on the street, but I've never cooked it myself.
Mm.
So now I'm going to do it.
Well, we're not all lucky enough to live in East and Southeast Asia. I can go to Thailand for a long weekend if I wanted to from Hong Kong, but um, if you don't live near any of those places, you know, Vietnam or Japan or Thailand, you might want to make it if you're craving it in the US or the UK, so you can recreate the dishes that you might have tasted on your holiday in your own home.
Yes, which I think is really nice. I think one of the great things about living in um, uh, Thailand is that when you walk in the streets, you could just smell the food because they're cooking on the streets, and it's practically free, the cost of it, but it just smells so good. And I love how you have exposed, I think, people who are not used to those flavors, like lemongrass, and more of those kinds of things are becoming more available. For instance, in the UK, everywhere else, Canada, the US, etc., which is fantastic. And I think a book like this, say 50 years ago, would be much harder to cook in a non-Asian kitchens. But in today's world, you can get all these ingredients quite easily, which is fantastic.
It's true because in it, all the Asian ingredients used to be relegated to the ethnic section of a supermarket. But nowadays, there's really great Asian shops in the UK, in the US. So with immigration, people from other countries are demanding their own ingredients and not just one aisle in a supermarket. So you can buy so many different ingredients. I mean, when I came to London a few months ago to photograph the book and also just to see what supermarkets are like, I saw so many fantastic ingredients that I didn't think that I could get here. And I was so pleased to find out that you can. The only thing that might be a little bit difficult actually is flours. And for that, you might have to go to a health food shop or, where they cater to different diets and buy, potato flour or sweet potato flour in those shops.
But the great thing, for instance, I remember when I worked on my first series in the early 80s, I would always have to say, first cookery television series, I would always have to say, if you can't get this, substitute that. And now you can go, as you said, in ordinary supermarkets and get practically all the fresh flavors, I mean, seasonings, etc. And you're absolutely right. You can actually cook Asian food from practically all over the world, except for a few specialty products. But you can find those in Chinatown, which is quite inexpensive.
Mm.
Potato starch, for instance. They have all these big shops like Siwu. You can go and they're quite inexpensive as well. And for especially for people who live in London, they're spoiled to have the Chinatown there, because the Chinatown offers everything from all over Asia, which is fantastic. And a lot of the Indian shops are fantastic as well. The Indian grocers, they would have a lot of the things that are in your book.
If you can't find something in a supermarket, you can always buy online. That's what's great about the modern world. You can always buy something online.
I know it's a great thing. This is what I love about online. You can get delivery. You can have somebody cooking for you.
Yeah, it's so much easier.
So you should start a fried chicken chain with all these recipes.
If anybody wants to back me financially, I'd love to do that.
I think it would outsell everything. Just I try not to look at your book before I eat. I try to look at it after I eat because it just makes me so hungry. Looking,
Thank you.
even just reading some of the recipes without the photos, my mouth starts watering.
We had a great team in London when we were photographing it, and I'm so pleased with Yuki and Sam. They did such a great job. We photographed the photos that we photographed everything at Yuki's studio, and there was a lot of natural light, and it was just really wonderful.
Yes, you could tell because I love the presentation because it's extremely simple. And I love this my guy that you I love it. This is so
I
funny.
wanted I wanted to use that as my profile shot because it would have been so funny, but they wouldn't let me.
But I think it's fantastic because it's I used to show how to do that in my class, how to skin the chicken and then restuff it to look like a chicken. And I remember my students, especially those who were professional chefs, they were astonished to see something like that. And this is the first time I've actually seen it in a cookery book, and a bravo for you. And anybody who's ambitious that wants to make that, they will not be disappointed. It's
Thank
really
you.
something special. Yes,
I
it's
don't
really,
actually expect anybody to cook that, although I hope they do. But I thought it's such an important dish in Cantonese cuisine that it needed to be documented. And so I hope that people make it. I don't blame you if you don't, because tunnel boning a chicken is a bit of a daunting task.
yes.
I did say that if you have a great butcher who's willing to do that, um, he or she might be able to do it for you, and of course you'll have to pay. But
Not only that, you could slip 1 or 2 quid more.
I think it will cost one or more than that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
just
also, sorry,
yeah,
I also
yeah.
said that if you don't want to tunnel a chicken, and I don't blame you, then you can use chicken wings, stuffed chicken wings, which is a lot easier.
I just love, well, for stuffed chicken wing, I prefer somebody else to do
That's
that.
easy though, compared to tunnel boning a whole chicken. A stuffed chicken wing is easy.
But what I love is that there's some, um, if I don't want to do something complicated, you have so many recipes that are quite simple and quick and easy to make without a lot of different kinds of ingredients. And that's what I love about that, because sometimes when you want to make something quick but delicious, it's really nice. I was just looking through this. I love this Southern Thai street food fried chicken. Now, it hardly has many ingredients, and it just looks so appetizing. And something like that, for instance, with just a salad. Oh my God,
Mm.
that's my go-to. At my age, and I've been cooking for over 60 years, so the easier something is, the better. I don't want to make anything complicated.
No, I agree with that. The only problem is that some of the recipes have to be marinated. But if you marinate it for, if my recipe calls for 2 hours and you only have 30 minutes to spare, that's fine. Just cook the recipe rather you know, than just giving up on it. I give guidelines about how long the chickens should be marinated, but it's not set in stone. I mean, you don't, it's not like something that it will change the flavor a bit, but it's still delicious.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think marinating is the key to simplicity. It only not only adds flavor, but you marinate it. This is what I usually do if I have a dinner party. I get something that I can marinate, and then I just cook it so that I
Mm.
can have fun with my guests. Other words, you're there in the kitchen all the time, working, and everybody's drinking and having a good time, laughing. And that's what's great about marinades. I think they allow you to sit back and enjoy um, your dinner that you're cooking, and it's quick and easy because the flavors are already there. It takes a little bit of time. I totally believe in marination these days.
Well, what's great about a marinade is you can do the work in advance. So,
Yeah,
like I said, if you only have 2 hours to spare, but you can actually marinate in advance. So,
yes,
if the recipe says 2 hours, but you want to let it go for 6 hours or 8 hours, if you want to do the work in one day before, that's fine. So it's a guideline. Marination is a guideline. There's a few recipes where it wouldn't work if you over marinate it, but most of the time you can go for 2 hours or 6 hours or maybe even longer.
yes, I totally agree with you, because there are things that I do, for instance, the night before, and it's fine.
Mm.
It's really, and um, I think a lot of recipes like this, you test it out yourself, following your guidelines, and then you adjust it, right, according to your taste, and you learn from different things that you do, and that's what I love about your book, how you simply explain things as well, about stocks, about coding. I love, I think these things are just so important, and I don't know, just some something mouthwatering and delicious.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it's a bestseller, and I'm gonna
I
do
hope so.
everything I can to tell the world about it.
Thank you. It's so kind. Thank you. One of the things that my husband laughs about is my precision with salt. Um, for most of the recipes, I say weigh the ingredient and multiply times 0.015 or times 0.01 or 0.005 to get the correct amount of salt. And he says that nobody's going to do that. If you don't, that's fine. But for me, that's the correct amount of salt. He thinks it's because I was a pastry chef and that's why I'm so precise. But I said, no, it's actually the right amount of salt. People might just want to sprinkle things on, but to, to, to there's different types of salt, so they sprinkle differently. There's fine grain and coarse grain. So if you use fine grain or coarse grain, if you multiply it times 0.015, it's going to be the same amount, no matter what kind of salt it is. So for me, it was very important to get the right amount of salt because that's what gives it its flavor. I think people tend to under salt, and you can add salt at the end, but it's not the same as it being an inherent part of the cooking, in the same way a marinade is.
I totally agree. I think how you describe it is very much. I've been cooking for such a long time. I'm used to almost measuring the salt in my fingers. So, and also too, I th I think what's really important is to encourage people to taste. In other words, while you're cooking, do taste things. Let your palate be your guide, which I think is important. Don't you think?
I think people forget how important it is to taste as you go. I mean, even if it's a marinade, you can taste it, and if it's overwhelmingly salty, add more of the other ingredients, or if it's not salty enough, you can add more salt, taking in mind, how much salt you added at the beginning. People forget, they think of a recipe as you have to follow it exactly, and I hope you do follow it correctly at the beginning when you make it the first time, and then if you liked it and then you want to adjust things, or if you're out of something, substitute something else. So you just need to make your recipes your own. Once you've made it the first time, just make it how you want the second time.
It's interesting, Susan. I've always um, said that when I, for instance, do public demonstrations, I show people how to cook things. I said, this is just a rough guide I'm giving you. And as you said, make it your own. If you don't like this, put something else. And that's what recipes are. Recipes are just a rough framework that is a guidepost. And then from there, you can go left or right or or in the center.
Just remember that I'm not in the kitchen with you when you're making it. So if you want to cheat a bit or substitute something else, I'm not going to say, oh, you're wrong, please don't do it that way, do it my way. Just do it how you can, how it's accessible to you.
Yes, that's what I love about your book too. I think it gives people confidence. You're holding their hand up to a certain point, and you said you're on your own, which is what a good cookbook is about. It's about helping people by giving them confidence to do something, and you've done a great job.
Thank you so much. Coming from you, those words mean a lot to me.
Well, it's easy because it's great. Yeah. Susan, do you have other things that you're going to do to promote the book?
Um, Nothing right now. I'm hoping to do some things. I'm hoping to do book signings. Um, I I don't know exactly what, but we started doing publicity a bit late, and I didn't realize, how far in advance I should have been booking events. So that's what happens when it's your first book with an international publisher.
Yes, yeah, books are a lot of work, especially these days, promoting them. But you can do things, for instance, on the net, uh, doing things like what we're doing. You'd be surprised how people learn about things these days. It's amazing. It's a new world. I mean, before you had to go physically out there to
Mm.
throw the book in people's faces and say, "Here it is."
Well, I've been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram. So if you look for Susan Jung Food, then you can find my posts about the book. And I've been trying to give the books to the right people like you and a lot of chefs, and to the influencers. So I hope that they write about the book. I hope they love the book and then write about it.
Yes, you know what you can do too, I think, Susan, would be great. For instance, you could cook some of these uh, recipes, show people how to do it, very short, and put them on YouTube. People love that. Apparently, people are going through YouTube trying to see how something works, and um, especially some of the more simple recipes. That'd be fantastic for them to hear your voice, to make not the recipes come alive, and then at the end you say, and you can find.
I should do that. Yes, I
Yes,
should do that.
you can have your stepdaughter film it, and she'd love to do it. She looks fantastic. So I bet the generation of people like that love to do things like that.
I'm sure she'd be happy to do this for me. She's a very supportive person.
Okay, she'd be a great film producer.
Thank you. I'll tell her that. So you're in
Okay.
Paris now, right?
Yes, I'm in Paris. As you know, I'm coming to London next week. I got a packed schedule. I'm at the British Library next Monday, and next Tuesday I'm doing a um, fundraiser for a scholarship, and then Wednesday I got filming stuff. Oh God, BBC Breakfast, etc. And then Thursday, another big fundraiser for prostate cancer charity. I mean, these things were booked, some of them 3 years ago, and because of COVID, things changed. But now everything's coming together, so it's it's going to be pretty jam-packed.
I love that you do a lot of charity events. I mean, you're helping out people, and that's really admirable.
Well, Susan, so many people have given to me,
Mm.
and now that um, I can hold people up for highway robbery, giving it to charity.
When you sent
It's
me the invitation for your event on Tuesday, I was looking at the BCC, well, not the CC list, of other people that you've um, emailed on this one, and I was very impressed. They were people like very high up, and I was thinking, wow, you know them personally, and that was very impressive.
Well, when you've been around long enough, you met uh, many people through your work, and when you've been around long enough, you get to meet everybody.
I don't know them well enough to invite them to an event, but I will be at your British Library event.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
Good,
so I'll
good.
see you then.